the best-selling girl groups in history. Beyoncé revealed she suffered from depression for a few years after Destiny's Child broke up in 2006 and her longtime boyfriend cheated on her. I didn't eat.
What's this drama?
Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the Special Interest Group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
Get your favorite health tips right here on U24. Maintain your kidney by drinking 8 to 10 glasses of water each day. This can be in form of soup, tea, water, cooked grains, and boiled vegetables.
Hello, my name is Erica Murunchi and welcome to Be Inspired by Erica. So today I want to talk about personal hygiene. Personal hygiene is not just a habit, it is a way of life. By maintaining personal hygiene, you will reduce stress, improve on your focus, show respect for yourself and others around you, to the people around you. Take care of your space and your life. Keep your room tidy, wash your hands, cut your fingernails, comb your hair, brush your teeth, and many others. Take care of your space and your life. Brush your teeth, make your bed, bathe, cut your fingernails, comb your hair, and many others. Make cleanliness a habit. Personal hygiene should be a priority. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Stay blessed. Much love. Thanks for watching.
Good evening, welcome. This is The Checkpoint. My name is Ivan Tumukunde and you're watching U24 television. It's been a great day. I hope it went all well for you. Tonight we are discussing a very complex issue and certainly I want us to be able to pay attention. Call your friend to call a friend to make sure that we are able to discuss everything under the sun concerning us as young people, as the youth. But most importantly, today we are discussing something to do with family. And with me in studio, we are with, to start from my far left, Basajabaka. Welcome to U24. Kindly say hello.
Hello everyone. My name is Basajabaka Elvis, a lawyer by profession, and I'm here to represent and to serve you on this show. Thank you for hosting us.
And next to Basajabaka, a good friend of mine, Nafula. Welcome to The Checkpoint. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yes.
Kindly say hello.
Hello viewers. My name is Sisi Nafula. Literally Namayingo. I am a lawyer by profession, kindly an advocate in training. I am happy to be here. Tune in, stay on it, don't move.
Don't move indeed. Twesejoy, welcome to The Checkpoint.
Thank you so much, Ivan. My name is Dennis Bob Twesime. I am a lawyer by profession and here to elaborate about DNA and families. It's a complex matter. Wow. I hope we agree upon certain stuff. Thank you so much.
Shall agree.
Yeah, sure. Certainly we shall be able to agree at the end of the day and have a discussion that is going to be important to this nation. Deoxyribonucleic acid, very complex. DNA and family is what we're discussing tonight. Very complex. It's been over and over a time been an issue and we've seen it either in the media, in the communities where we come from. You've seen families break up because of that issue. A certain maybe father saying, this is not my son, this is not my daughter. Certain family saying, this is not our child. And it's in many ways that families either choose to say this is ours or not. And traditionally, someone will just look at your face and say, those are not our ears. Someone will look at you and say, those are not our toes. And then you're denied to be part of that family. It brings about so much pain for people that certainly shouldn't really be suffering all that, and that's the children who are certainly not part. You don't choose to where you get born from. You don't choose to who your father is going to be, only to grow up and you're told, this is your father, this is your mother, and certainly you have less to do about it. Today, I want to be able to drive into that discussion, break it down, agree on a few things, disagree on a number of them, but at least have some understanding and meeting ground when it comes to the issue of doing DNA. And if to start with Elvis, if you can kindly break down what DNA is.
Breaking down the issue of DNA, as you stated earlier, scientifically, it's deoxyribonucleic acid.
Yeah.
DNA, specifically, it's an acid found in our genetic systems and used to confirm one's genetics.
Yeah.
You get? So, scientifically, that's the brief background because we are lawyers. So, I may not go into detail of the medical aspects.
Yeah.
And basically, when we concentrate on the issue of testing, we have a variety of tests that are carried out. You get, where we have the ancestry tests, we have the medical tests where we easily confirm one's medical and health issue wise. You get, and forensic DNA tests, and then the relationship DNA tests. Those are the main tests that we here in Uganda are going to focus on. And breaking down the ancestry tests, they help us ascertain one's ancestry lineage. You get?
Yeah.
Where we realize that you belong to a certain family, despite of you not having parents or grandparents, we can still ascertain your lineage, basing on that kind of test. A relationship test, that's when we find one's mother, father, uncle, auntie, basically everyone in a family.
Sure.
Then forensic DNA test, that's when you look at investigations in crimes, investigations in court, when we try to get one's parentage and we ascertain where one falls in a family, you get. And then when you look at the medical DNA test, that's where we mainly look at one's health. This is where you find that when you're going to marry someone, you find them, they have sickle cell, they have genetic traits of albino, you get, and all that, you get. So basically, we look at protecting such information, and that's how we relate it legally in Uganda, you get, whereby such information is vital and it has to be conducted in accredited hospitals. You can't just go on a random hospital and go and carry out a DNA test.
Sure.
Because you will get wrong results and then you go home and just banter the children because they are not yours.
But even if they are not yours, do you have to banter them because they are not yours?
No, you shouldn't banter them in that kind of way, but a child will remain a child. You get?
Yeah.
So, and the various, when you look at the various importances of DNA, the importances, it comes to, first of all, ascertaining parentage. That one, everyone knows it. It will help you to ascertain one's health, because when you're going to marry a partner, you should know your partner's health. At least that's one of the recommendations before you get married.
Sure.
You get? And yeah, that's the basic introduction I can give, the brief thing I can
and I
give.
think that definitely does lay a proper foundation for us to have a discussion.
Yeah.
And from the different types of DNA you've talked about, but also a few importances why we need to do it, it helps someone who is watching and certainly get to know why certain people get to choose to do DNAs or not. Why not? And this hasn't started yet, not only looking at the scientific way, but even on the health side, families used to look at all those issues. That's one, by looking at you, they just look at you and say, this one is not okay health-wise. Either they have a B, C, D, whether that was scientifically right or not, but they used to. Same when it comes to the scientific DNA. Someone just looks at you and then they are able to say, those are not our toes, and then they decide you're not theirs. And they've done their DNA test and it's done there and then. Coming to you, Sisi, what is your perspective about DNA?
My perspective, like general perspective on DNA.
Yeah. When you hear DNA, what do you think about? But also, if you hear someone did a DNA, what comes into your mind?
Of course, okay, with the low background in my head and laywoman's understanding of DNA, what I would think of when someone says DNA, like random saying DNA, the first thing I would think about is one, paternity test. Because it is the one, if we have had DNA tests in, let me use our country as a case study, 90% or more of them have been establishment of paternity. Because in most cases, how do we end up here testing DNA? All right, with a low background, I would love to say that DNA is not just meant to be carried on anyhow, but there must be a cause. There is always a reason as to why we end up saying, let there be a DNA test, or because it's, okay, looking at unpacking our topic, what it was, we majorly go in for DNA in issues concerning inheritance, parentage, and things of children.
Sure.
So you look at, we have instances where parents, more so the male side of the parents, have deliberately refused to take care of children. And they have to go through a court process for a court to order parentage, and someone has to take on their roles as a father. So we have that. And then we also have issues where inheritance fights have led to DNA, where the court has to order that there should be a DNA test in order to establish whether the children that are in question are part of the people that should be considered during inheritance, or where we have wills. You know, we have had wills where someone declared that whatever, the bigger portion of my property belongs to so-and-so as my child. But then the other parties or the other children actually believe that that one child you have given a bigger portion of your wealth is actually not your child. So in such instances where a court has gone ahead to now direct that there should be a DNA test for us to establish whether this child really belongs to this particular deceased person, or you are the true parent of this child and so you should take care. Only that the bigger fact we have kept forgetting about DNA is that when we are in the lay society, when we are not speaking as lawyers, when people speak about DNA, the first thing that comes to people's mind is either women giving birth to children all over, and yes, they should do DNA. But me, in my head, I always be like, all right, so we are all branding women, 9 children, only 4 are for the husband. It is okay to brand women, but what if all to the 5 are not mine? So I think when you look at DNA, we should look at that bigger perspective, because it cuts across. There is paternity test, and then also we should also look at the maternity test, because yes, I gave birth to a child on a particular day, but I was not the only one in hospital.
Yeah, actually, that's something that we never really give focus too. But if even that child doesn't belong to your wife?
Exactly, because that is always my point of contention whenever I hear DNA. I'm like, it is okay for us to draw tantrums and we are all over the women, and they're like, yes, she has 9 children, but 4 of them belong to the husband, 5 are not for the husband. Are the 5 mine? Because have you taken a step to know if the 5 are mine or not? What if they are not? Okay, yes, what if they are? Is it a conclusion that I did something and did something for them? What if the test there was an error in the test?
What if you got pregnant by the Holy Spirit?
Oh,
anyway,
no.
Coming to you, Twesime. Why are you men becoming all of a sudden to mistrust your wives and mistrust even your own children? Because sometimes you don't just do a DNA test because you have either misunderstanding with your wife. Sometimes you look at the child, either you've had arguments, you're like, you might not even be my child, and you decide to take them for a DNA test. What's happened? What is going right or what is going wrong with you men?
Thank you so much, my brother. First and foremost, I'll start with a disclaimer. Whatever I'm going to say on this show is only and only my opinion.
I thought you're very brave. Huh?
Yes, it's only and only my opinion and not that of my employers or clients.
Okay.
I didn't know why you had to throw that question to specifically me, because my sister started by being protective, but that's not my goal. Talking about DNA, this hasn't started with our generation. DNAs have been there over time. Even our ancestors had their own ways. As I'm an African man and a Christian man, and our ancestors also had their own ways of ascertaining certain aspects when it comes to family. Answering your question, where we have gone wrong, my brother Ivan, we are in a generation that is broken. We are in a generation that is broken. For lack of a better word to use, we are in a generation that is beyond repair.
Sure. I want to believe we're still... there are a few things that are not
going right. Yes, with an aspect of
but
hope.
We're not yet beyond.
With an aspect of hope in the way. But we are in a generation that is broken. We are in a generation where ladies and gentlemen have grown up with different kinds of people. I'm sorry to say, I'm mostly going to rely on the relationship DNAs, because that's what is around Kampala, Uganda, East, West. And we are only relying on relationship DNAs because we are in a generation that has lost its way to believing in something else. Long ago, our fathers taught their daughters and sons on how to handle certain aspects. 1, 2, 3, here, you're broken up, you're divorced, you're having babies here, there. I'm not saying it's our sisters. Even the gentlemen out there have misbehaved in certain ways that are against our cultures and religions. So we need to take extra, I would call it megally, efforts to streamline the future generation, which are going to be our kids, and teach them our ways as Africans, as believers, as Muslim men and Christian people. But I'm not saying we can't correct this. We can correct this, and I know, and in summary, this whole topic is going to rely on what we call the welfare principle. This is the best needs of our child. Despite all these DNA tests, despite every quarrel you have in your families, paternity, maternity, and relationship tests, the law in Uganda and out there relies mostly on the welfare principle of this child. Why are you doing this DNA test? Is it in the best interest of this child? Yeah, not to preempt the discussion.
Thank you so much. And from where you stop it is why I want Elvis to start from putting the interest of children first, because we understand that they are the next generation that is going to be able to keep standing And as human beings, actually, that's why people work hard. That's why people fight for land, because in our minds, we are fighting to protect the next generation. And talking about children, what determines one being a son or daughter to someone? What determines me saying this is my child? And putting that in context where she talked, for example, on where there are resources and someone dies, in the will they leave, these are for my children, I give this to my child, and someone has the right to say after the person is gone, to say this is not a child enough. Either you're not a biological child and therefore you're not entitled to this. So if you can, make us understand.
Right. I can make you, of course, understand.
Sure.
And the rest of the viewers watching this. According to where he stopped, all children and every child within the country, the world, the welfare principle is key and it's paramount, because that's where the law bases on to protect every child within the country. Even when you look at family court, they have this slogan of theirs: a family tie is a tree that can bend but does not break.
Wow.
You get? That slogan bases on the mere fact that all families have children, and all the systems set up to take care of the children are not meant to break families. Fine, families can bend, but they shouldn't break. You get? So coming back to the welfare principle, that the DNA test and the children, like our colleague was saying, that children should be taken care of by their parents and abroad. And then you asked, what do you take note of that this is my child, daughter, and so on? That comes from proving that one person is a parent, either a mother or a father. You get? And then when you go to the issues concerning adoption of the child, the court order that is given after granting adoption makes you officially a child. You get? I mean, makes you the parent to that child. You get? It makes you a parent to that child, and that means they are always capable of inheriting from your property, despite of them not having any blood relation with the child.
Wow.
But they can still inherit.
Okay.
You get? When you go in the law, the Succession Act, you get? There is that issue of illegitimate children and then the legitimate children.
Yes.
The legitimate child is a child born in the wedlock of a family. That wedlock means after marriage, children born after marriage. And illegitimate means a child born outside a wedlock, outside a marriage, like you're just cohabiting and you have a love child. They call them love children.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so you can get a child in that kind of way, and then you start upbringing them, but still that makes you a parent to that child because you're blood related to them.
They are legitimate children.
The illegitimacy is out of the equation. You get?
Okay.
That means the welfare principles still come ahead of everything.
Sure.
You get? That means any child, be it illegitimate, legitimate, adopted, as long as there is a court order, they can still benefit from one's inheritance.
So we're looking at two, and I think that should be made clear, because sometimes we take it for granted to say, for me, as long as I've been able to bring these children in my home and I've made it clear to everyone, these are also my children, I treat them equally, I don't segregate to say this is more of my child than any other, and we think that is going to be the case even when we are gone. But you make it clear, if at all you're bringing them and you want them to be your legitimate children, if they are not your children by DNA, then either they have to be adopted which makes them your legal children. Is that right?
Ivan, while you proceed on that, I think let's make something clear. There are two things. Number one, the Marriage Act is clear on who are the children that should be considered children in a marriage. Children that are born during the subsistence of a marriage. These are children of that marriage.
Okay.
Unless otherwise, unless there is a court order that sends you to court to now do a DNA, there should be a circumstance that is now eventually sending you to do a DNA for you to now say, all right, I've done a DNA and this is not my child. But according to the Marriage Act, me, you, we are married. The children that, if we get married in 2010, by 2020, if there are any children that I have given birth to in those 10 years, those are our children. They're not mine. They are our children. It doesn't matter where I gave birth from. Wow. Those are our children. That's the Marriage Act. Proceed to legitimacy and illegitimacy of children. That is something of the old Succession Act. It is actually something that the law has done away with. Because the law has brought us to a bar where it is important for us to realize that that so-called illegitimate child was something of the past. It was something that was brought up to make, should I say, there is it's sort of English, but vernacular word we always use. Some children want to feel more important than others, because your mom was wedded with your father. Now all the children born out of that wedding with other women, they are illegitimate. Now watch, there is nothing like that. Children born to a man out and inside wedlock are all legitimate children.
Yes.
All children are equal regardless of circumstances under which they are brought into life. So those are two principles that govern this whole thing of DNA. Yes.
Talking of an instance where my friend Elvis,
yes,
either is gone, God forbid, and I have to take on his children. I bring his children to my home, and I educate them. I actually even put them in my will. But then when I'm gone, someone says, these are not legitimate children because they are not my biological children.
Now,
Answering that, they become dependents.
They become?
Dependent.
Not just, actually, yes, dependents. That is when we are taking succession as intestate. But when it is tested succession, where I have left a will, unless the will is contested, a will is someone's last testament of life. I can wake up in the morning, make a will. Me, Sisi Nafula, I have children. I have a husband. But I can wake up in the morning and say, okay, if I have property anyway, because now we are still growing human beings of Uganda. But I can wake up and say, I have this and this and this. I've bequeathed this to Ivan. And if my family has no problem with it, then it is okay. But then I must consider the children, maybe if there are children that are below the age of 25, still schooling and so on that. But then if there is a will, take it as it's the last testament of someone. That is what they wished for before they died. But if it is intestate, how do we bring in these children? Because the Succession Act is clear that there is a percentage of someone's wealth that must go to the linear descendants, and these are children. And that is how now we get into do DNA tests to establish the linear descendants. Because there is a percentage of 70 of, say, 75 of his wealth, yes, 75 of whatever they have left, like the estate of the deceased that belongs to the linear descendants who are the children. So that is where the DNA test gets necessary for us to say who are now the linear descendants. But in the instance of the will, whoever you put in your will, the law allows you to do so. But then if you took them on, now like the children talked about, yes, your brother died, you took them on, now you have decided to take them as your children. If you die without a will, those will be treated as dependents. They are not your linear descendants because you did not birth them.
I think that needed to be clear, because that's actually what I wanted to come out, and that gives me the satisfaction I needed. Because many of the men or the parents will certainly take it that it's obvious. If I've brought in children in my home and I've made it clear, I've communicated, I've treated them as my children, then you expect other people to also treat them the same. At what time or in what situation does someone need to carry out a DNA test?
To me, I would say a DNA test is actually unnecessary.
Why do you think so?
Unless we are trying to prove certain things in accordance with the law.
Yes.
I'll mostly still rely on the welfare principle, and as a Christian man, I grew up when they are telling me children are angels from God. You cannot emotionally and mentally perturb your child's head after you taking care of this kid for over 14 years, and now they have grown up calling you daddy, and now you're trying to explain to this kid, you know what? You're not my blood.
Okay.
I understand an aspect of fathering someone in a different way. We have people we call fathers that are not actually our biological fathers. And it is very unfortunate that in our generation, whenever an aspect of DNA comes in, we are trying to prove the infidelity of the other gender. When I go back to history, in my own culture, those men knew that the children, I have 9, but I think these 2 are not mine. And they used to give them names like Tinkwesiga. You understand? Kabadiaho. You understand? But these people did not stop taking care of these children. They say, whatever that is under my roof is mine. Understand?
And that's what makes you a man.
Yes, and that's what makes you a man.
It's discriminatory.
Let me tell you something small, a simple story. Was it Simbi somewhere? A man made a will, going to wills. A man made a will. In his will, he mentioned all the beneficiaries. And then he highlighted certain aspects. It was like, so and so has grown up in my family. I consider him my kid, and he's entitled to this, a certain portion of land, a certain portion of this estate. However, if there is anyone that ever comes and claims that person as their own, as their kid, please let them take. This person did not affect the emotional state of that child, but recognized them. So it hurts me in my generation that we forget so much what we want to build in these angels. And then look at our emotional distress. Ivan, look at our emotional distress. Look at her infidelity. Actually, even us men. You go, have your own babies out there, but then you look. I don't have a better word to explain it, and I don't want to affect my viewers. Yeah, so I'm saying, while we are looking at an aspect, even courts should actually consider this. An aspect of DNA has broken families, has emotionally drained kids. This is where you find a kid is a very brilliant person, but they stopped thinking and growing at a certain age, saying every man for himself. You've had these things. Just because Papa wasn't my Papa, I was left on my own. So if we are to better our generation, we should consider the welfare principle. Look at the good things this kid is going to come up, grow.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll cut it a little bit short. We're going for a short break, but keep engaging online. We're streaming live on YouTube. So if you're people that you're certain are not able to watch live on TV, kindly get onto our YouTube channel at U24 Television UG and share with them the link such that they can be able to watch online. You can also send in your comments both on YouTube but also on X, formerly Twitter. And we have Mjomba Jethro Ogubi, who says this is a good topic. I only wonder whether we shall have inclusivity in the discussion. Definitely, you can be able to send in your opinion and what you think about the topic, and we'll be reading them out. Someone is sending, that is Ronald Efumbi, is sending in regards to his sister, Nafula Sisi. We go in for a short break. We'll be right back.
Youth of Purpose.
Use waters and you roll it.
Youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. It's time to choose our leaders. Let's show up and participate in the special interest group elections. Starting June through August this year. Your vote, your voice. My vote, my voice. This message is brought to you by the Uganda Electoral Commission.
I'm Ivan Tumkonde, and in studio I have Elvis, I have Nafula, and a gentleman that in the break we're discussing that we need to keep standing on our word as men, and that is to do with when you choose to say everyone under my roof is my child. So no matter the circumstance, whatever happens, they are going to stay your children. Coming to you, Elvis. When does one need to do a DNA test?
Apparently, on when someone should do a DNA test, I'm going to contrast my brother.
Okay.
At least everyone should at least do a DNA.
What do you mean, everyone? Are you saying the same way we have vaccination for children?
Definitely.
At birth.
At birth.
Same way we should have a DNA test carried out.
Same exact way we should have a DNA
I'm listening.
carried out. Why? Why is it the best way? At least, okay, it should be a policy put in the accredited hospitals to conduct DNA at child birth.
Wow.
You get?
Mm-hmm.
So that all these issues of my child is now 14 years, I've wasted all my money, all the negative impact that
also the bond that you've built with the child.
The bond you've built with the child all comes to hurt you emotionally.
True.
Is all done away with.
Mm-hmm.
So for the men and women, at least the best and solution is to do the DNA at birth, because that will remove a paternity fraud done by some of the women who do it and don't disclose the don't disclose the parentage of the child.
Sure.
You get that will help do away with all the expense that a father would have invested in a child, the time, the love.
And to mention, that's to do with intentionally, and those that actually intentionally don't know that the child is not yours. Because like Nafula was saying, it might be in the hospital that they've exchanged the
exactly.
babies. So actually that would help that you're certain the baby you're taking home is your baby.
Is your baby.
Yeah.
So at least that can help you ascertain that the child you're taking home is your baby, and it will save you a lot of the trouble, a lot of the trauma in the future.
Sure.
A lot of all the unnecessary drama, simanya, inheritance, all those struggles with the family that come along with you being a deceased person, and you know, like you've left a legacy and people are now questioning that this isn't my child. This is my child. Samson is not my child. You get, it will solve all that, cause at birth, you know, this is my child, this is my son, this is my daughter. And as the child grows, you're well ascertained and you're well assured. So at least that should be a policy implemented in the accredited hospitals that carry out DNA tests. Yeah.
Okay.
And that should be improved in other hospitals as well. So at least the best time should be at birth.
Nafula, as a lady, as a woman, when do you think someone should do a DNA test, or at what time would you yourself request someone to do a DNA test?
You know, we actually disagree to agree on a lot of things. But the one thing I agree with my brother here is a DNA test is more necessary at that time of birth. Yes, and for reasons he has stated, the emotional attachment, the so on, because I earlier told you that my stand is, it's possible that you think the child is not yours, but also it's not mine. So that is one reason I would prefer that if there is any need for DNA, let it happen at birth. But if it's not at birth, then why is it even necessary?
Yeah.
Yes, because maybe, you know, because some children actually get rowdy. Yes, some children get rowdy. When you have this fear of losing the whole estate you have built over the years. Because in my opinion, maybe this is what pushes people. You have built your whole estate, you have struggled all through life, and then there is this child you actually think is likely not to be yours. Probably he's even your only son.
Yeah.
You think he's not yours, but he's going to inherit this whole fortune of yours, and you think he's actually going to put it to waste. Maybe it could be necessary in such instances, but in my opinion, it would be better at that time when I have no emotional attachment to you. Because after some time, if maybe, like we earlier stated, DNAs can be taken at 20, okay, for children 18 and below, let me say 17. Like, for Christ's sake, 17 years. Why are you bothering my peace as a child? Because in the very first instance, it's not me that chose to be born in this chaos and circus of you two. If there was infidelity, it was on you, the mother or father, whoever it was. Why am I being brought in circus? I am 17 years. I have known you as my father for the past 17 years. And now here is life, DNA test. Then there is another man that sprout up. And you know, when we are saying these things, manya, DNA should be done. We should put in at the back of our mind that some of us are firstborn. I have a friend of mine who was telling me, as a firstborn, never talk of DNA. Because you will get shocked. That you who is saying, you know, at that time of inheritance, I've seen such a scenario when there is this firstborn who, the father is now deceased, and because the man died intestate, he did not leave a will. So, you know, we get back to the percentages: 75% lineal descendants, wife 20%, other dependents 4%, the heir 1%. Now, you know, these children who want to act like they are very sure, I am my father's child, all their eyes are fixed on that 75%, more so when this person has a reasonable estate, you know. So with fixing your eyes on the 75%, this firstborn forgot that it's possible that she's the one that is not part of these children. So, you know, the firstborn was actually a lawyer, like some of us. Because she knows the law, and she's making a lot of noise. You know, there should be a DNA. There are these children who came after the burial. They are the ones who came on the day for burial. These children are so many. They all can't be for my father. Court order the DNA test. She was part of those who are not the father's children.
Wow.
Yes. So while the whole world wants DNA, I am part of those that keep saying, only in rare circumstances, when you think it is really necessary and inevitable. Or, you know, look at the reason behind the DNA test first. Because in my opinion, that would be the most important thing. Why are we carrying it on or in the first instance? Is it a positive reason? Or we are just doing this because we are fighting over wealth? We are, you know, what? In your fight of wealth, we should realize that there are some things that can be ignored here and there for peace to prevail. Because a family is something, what binds us together as a family is the love, you know? This thing we share as a family. But because, you know, you're interested in wealth, what you're bringing in a whole chaos, and in the end of it all, you're the one that is being thrown out as not being the child of your father. So such instances really are annoying, at times embarrassing. That is why I feel if it is necessary, let it be done at the earliest time possible.
Okay. Yes. Yes, you have something to submit?
I will only agree with him.
Okay.
Where we need to put the welfare principle in play is, of course, at birth.
Okay.
But you see, my brother Simon, There is a saying that goes, let the lying dogs keep what? Lying. Sometimes it is better to let some things be. There is a reason as to why our fellow men are dying before their wives.
Huh? What are you talking about?
What haven't you
are you
understood?
insinuating?
What haven't you understood?
What are you insinuating?
I'm saying,
kindly be clear. You already put a
when should
disclaimer.
we do
So
DNAs? Know your partner. People are carrying out DNAs because they don't know their partners.
or because they are mistrust.
Yes, mistrust.
Yeah.
So agree with your partner that, you know what, we are going into this thing, we are going into marriage, we are going into this, but every child you bring on table, we shall carry out a DNA test. That's one.
So it's something that should also be discussed
before you try bringing and feeding the world. Agree with your partner.
Now Nafura will already be getting emotional, so you don't trust me.
No, that's it's not about getting emotional.
Sometimes,
actually,
they begin to have a saying.
Yes.
And so they could go buy a crash. You tell her, let her get emotion. But you want to, Nafula, you want to be with.
How would you feel, Nafula, if you're dating someone and on your third date they're telling you, okay, I want us to have this number of children, but I want us to make sure that every child we give birth
Of
to.
course,
you know, Ivan,
the
the things you people are discussing are for elite women. Maybe the women that have studied so much and, you know, they understand these things and so on. But the women that are 70% of the women in this country, number one, mention your DNA things. The first one thing I'll tell you is get back to where your insecurity issues came from. Because what the hell? Like, you just met me and you're discussing DNA. Have I even told you I'm going to get pregnant for you? Do you have the assurance that I will ever give birth to any of your children? Why are we even bringing DNA in the picture before we get married? Like, you know, there are some discussions that create
I think you see
mistrust.
how uncomfortable the discussion can, not that they are getting, the conversation can be, because they're also being realistic from their perspective.
Yes.
How do you start mistrusting me before I've even actually given myself to you to say
yes. Before you know if I want to give you a child or not.
Yes.
Let me give you another scenario. We're talking about DNA here, right? Have you heard of us saying that this husband has stayed so much with this woman to an extent of them looking? Have you heard of us saying this husband has stayed so much with this woman to an extent of them looking alike?
No, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard
Yeah,
it.
I have heard it.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Why? You stay with this woman for a long time to an extent that you'll start looking alike. Why? You have shared certain genes and enzymes for a very...
So the woman is getting to look like you.
Both of you have shared. Simon, we are old people on this show, and I believe viewers are above the age of 80.
Anyway, biologically, a man doesn't share the genes from a woman, but a woman can take the genes from a man.
So,
unfortunately, I'll have to move to Elvis. I'll be coming back to you, and we'll pick it up from there. We have seen the circumstances under which someone should be able to do a DNA test. But we've also seen circumstances where, for example, someone gets a child or steals a child from their mother without their consent and goes to do a DNA test on the child. How and legally, what needs to be done when a DNA test is going to be carried out? What is the criteria?
Now, a brief background before we come to the criteria and how it is done. Looking at the legal aspects is that it's not okay, you get, due to privacy reasons, to carry out a DNA without another party knowing about the DNA test that is going to be carried out. You get?
Yeah.
So it's important for parties to at least agree, like he said at first, and if the party or one of them refuse, like, let me give an example. In the circumstance, if it is a man going to carry out the DNA,
Yeah.
and the lady objects to that, you get, the man has to go to court
Get
and
a court
apply
order.
for a court order, you get, and then carry out the DNA test on that particular child.
Okay.
Right? So basically that's the easiest way, and it's the procedure. So any viewer out there should consult their lawyer and the advocate or on such issues concerning the court order that you need to get before carrying out a DNA, and it should be done in an accredited hospital.
Okay.
That's the key issue, because results can be inaccurate from other institutions, because they might tell you prices are cheap here, what so. That is the laboratory accredited to carry out the test. If it's no, don't risk, because it will have grievous repercussions. You get?
Yeah.
That's the point I started with, of bantering a child when you come back home, when the child is yours.
Yes.
Yet in actual sense, the child.
Then the issue of privacy, most especially for the minors.
Now the issue of privacy, the Constitution provides for a right of privacy on any child, even on adults. It's important, because if you do a DNA test on a person confirming their health issues, still that information is private, and it should be taken, like, should be carried with utmost good care. You get?
Yeah.
By that, all the laboratories should provide you the information secretly, and you should keep it confidential to yourself, because no one wants to be there and is going to marry someone with sickle cell traits. Some people don't want albinos, they discriminate them considering their traits. And even when some people are not albinos, someone might want to carry out a DNA test to confirm if those traits are in their blood. You get?
Sure.
So that he doesn't want to have children with albino traits, doesn't want to give birth to an albino, so they go ahead to carry out such a test.
Okay, we have some feedback coming in on YouTube. We have Doug. This is a very good topic. However, with the prevailing events in news, even the he mentioned someone's name, Saga. She feels that the Marriage Act and Succession Act are inadequate, and Sisi can agree with her. I don't know, Sisi, if you agree or not.
True.
Yes.
Inadequate.
Okay, that's from Doug. Andre Gessa, does the law give some kind of entitlement to the child you have brought up since childhood, but DNA confirms he or she is not yours? That's the question I wanted to ask you next, actually. After DNA has confirmed this is not your child, what next for this child that knows no other father but you, and have been under your custody for all that time? What happens? More feedback. The much needed topic is paternity fraud in Uganda. It has become prevalent as a societal and legal crisis. Thus is a phenomena for some women, and willfully and deliberately misrepresent genetics. Maybe that's about the mistrust that we were talking about. Either, I don't want to make it generic to say women choosing to take advantage of certain men. They perfectly know the child is not yours, but choose to say the child is yours, not until a DNA is done when the child is old. And that is very unfair. We understand in circumstances where you have a child and you're not certain of who the father is, and you 100% believe the child belongs to your husband. That is understandable. But in circumstances where you're very sure and you know how you even got pregnant with another man, but you choose to claim that the child belongs to a different man, that is very, very dangerous and unfair to the children. Tumshabe Prosper from Ibanda University. He says, I don't ever support DNA because DNA testing can expose sensitivity, can expose sensitive personal information, leading to public shaming or legal disputes. I think that's about confidentiality, which we were discussing. Someone says, parentage within marriage. This transcends individual betrayal, emerging as societal want that demands urgent legislative and cultural healing. It's corrosive and shatters trust and seeks to erode the compute. I think the message is not complete. Okay, the other part is here. And seeks to erode the basic unit and bedrock of societies. And that's what we were discussing before the show, of the fate of the family institution. Because like he was saying that even our ancestors used to know that suddenly maybe one or two of the children are not mine. But for the sake of protecting the family and keeping people together, they choose to keep those children. You can't imagine you are in your 70s, 90s, and then you have children who are in their 30s, 40s, and you're still choosing to look for who is your child or not. It can really, it can really be disturbing. There was another feedback. This is to Elvis. So Elvis, with parentage comes parental responsibility, which is distinct from guardianship. I think she's giving her opinion. Just responding to, I think, what you said. We have Mokwaya Benon saying, thanks, colleagues. U24 Television, be inspired. Okay, thanks for the feedback. Movia Basaja says, what of adopted children? Are they entitled to inheritance if the deceased never left a will? I think from the explanation, they definitely do.
Yes.
Because they are legitimate children. Okay, thank you. Doug is doing a great job of even responding to the people that are commenting online. Keep the messages coming in. We shall keep the conversation going online. Unfortunately, because of time, we don't have to get into U24 cinema space. I don't know which movies are going to be showing, but kindly keep it locked on U24. The movie is coming at exactly 10 p.m. To start with you, I'll be giving each one of you 1 minute, and I would want you to focus on the fate of the family institution. How do we make sure that all that happens keeps the family together, or all that happened, how does it affect family? 1 minute, please.
All right, starting with me, of course. Thank you for this final opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking at a family, first of all, it doesn't have a definite form or even a definition. A family, you can build a family with a friend, can build a family with anyone around you. That's why a family is not about mother, father, marriage. This one is my sister, brother. It doesn't have a definite form.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's the slogan I'm actually relying on, that a family can bend, but it shouldn't break.
Wow.
You get?
Mm-hmm.
And basing on that, the way we see how a family should be together, because I've come from a family that has been together and we are still together as one.
Yeah.
Despite, of course, here and there, challenges happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normal and that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You get?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Family is something that should be
protected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should be protected.
Yeah.
And this issue of DNA and whatever issues that arise out of parentage, mistrusts concerning DNA, mother and father here and there, the best way to do away with them is having policies and laws that govern DNA. At least if there is I'm just assuming there are laws in Uganda and policies that regulate DNA and how it should be conducted, and now to protect to protect the children, the women and men, you get, it will save you from a lot of.
I think your idea of doing DNA at birth is really a good one, and hopefully the authorities can look into it.
Yeah.
Because now it checks the issue of thinking it's mistrust. Because the moment you talk of doing a DNA test,
so it helps people to do away with the issue of mistrust, since it's automatic.
Sure.
You get the time the child is born, DNA is conducted, and then you have your results within the less time, and which you keep confidential to the parents.
Sure.
You get, since you've gotten the order, if it is an order of court, you get the order and it has to be confidential.
Thank you so much. Nafula, your last remarks.
All right, most especially about what you asked last. My last remarks, you know, the family system is degenerating every now and then. And in my opinion, women, men, I think it's time for us to support this government to make better laws. Because the Children Act, the Succession Act, the Marriage Act, they are all having provisions that speak to the family, but then they don't really richly bring out how these things should be governed, and they are leaving a gap in the air. So in my opinion, while we talk about DNA and stories, the chaos that is embedded in families right now is because the family justice system is not putting sanctions to people that are choosing to break the family system. Because we have talked about this deliberate choosing to make a child for Simon, and yet you know very well that a child belongs to Bob. So let the law speak of sanctions that will accrue to such women. Yes, now that you have realized that you knew very well the child belonged to Simon, but for 20 years you have let Bob pay school fees, do all that it takes to be a father. So what next after us realizing that the child wasn't theirs? So let there be sanctions in the law. And also there are fathers out there who are reaching their deathbeds, and they are devastated because they are thinking they actually have no child, and yet there are children of theirs meandering around the world because their mothers have kept them away from these fathers. You know, so they are dying in trauma because, you know, I am alone, I am dying in hospital alone. You have children all over this world, but because maybe you were bad, maybe you were drunk, the women hid these children away from you. It is important that let's make the family what it was in the first time. Even when you hate this man, let his children know him. And even when you know that there is this Bob that is rich and he's the better person to take care of your children, let there be a way of Bob knowing that he's taking care of children that are not his, they belong to Simon, but because he's in a better capacity, they will also help him in the future. Children are not metals. They will remember that there was a father who took care of them, even when he was not their father. So let's not hoodwink people, like you're putting on a mask and you're showing people another face, which is not you. Show them the truth and let them deal with it.
I mean, there are men that have chosen to say, it's fine, I know this child is not mine.
Yes.
And they allow you to let the children know their father.
And they bring up that child.
But they maintain that let them know their father.
So the very last one, unless it was done as a mistake in hospital, it is not nice to let children live in a family that they will later realize was not theirs. It is not really.
Thank you so much. Your last remarks, please.
Thank you, Simon.
Ivan.
Looking at the legal aspect in my country, it is very unfortunate that we do not have a law on DNA that regulates these. We do not have a law.
Sure.
Yes. That regulates DNA tests and blah, blah, blah. But replying to some comments, where you have realized that this child is not yours and you're financially strained, we have what we call a welfare and probational officer. That is, his role is to see that this child is well catered for, their wishes, their education and everything. So you can always consult these people. At least government has done that for us.
Okay, I'll cut you short because of time. We need to go for the movie, but we are going to continue with this conversation on YouTube. So for those who are online, we shall continue having this discussion. Kindly keep your comments coming in. But for the sake of those who are on live TV, U24 Cinema starts now.